Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 3. Today we're talking about some new terminology when it comes to scatter plots, and you can see the 3 words that we're learning about on the left of your screen. So we're going to dive right in. The first one is cluster, and just like the word cluster, if we were to use it without talking about math, just means a group of objects. That's exactly what a cluster is on a scatter plot. It is a group of data points. So there are 2
There are
clusters.
two
Oh,
distinct clusters in the graph.
sorry, I did not know there was um, a recording for this part as well. So there are 2 clusters in this graph, as you can see, and it's just a group of coordinates that are together in the coordinate plane. And sometimes that means something when we put labels on our axes and we're able to kind of analyze our graph. But right now we're just focused on this is a cluster, this is a cluster. Now, just like you would expect, a gap is a gap. Let's go ahead and watch this.
The gap falls between x values 3 and 6 and 5/10.
Okay, so there's a gap between the data here. There's a gap this way. There's also a small gap this way as well, right here. And we're going to talk about these 2 points next. So just so you know, a gap can also exist. And then let's look at an outlier. An outlier is probably the ones that you probably haven't heard of before. But basically, the way I remember it is it lies on the outside of the data.
The single point above each cluster of points is an outlier.
Okay, so outliers are coordinates that they're valid data, but they aren't in line with the rest of our data. So sometimes we'll see other examples of scatter plots where you'll have everybody's going in a cluster going from left to right in an upward direction, and then we'll have one random one over here. So it's just an outlier. It's something that doesn't follow the normal pattern, but it is still valid data, so it does need to be plotted. All right, so here we have a graph that represents the ages and heights of several people in a classroom. Identify the cluster and outliers in the graph. So right off the bat, you can see the cluster, and here are the outliers. Okay, so this is a cluster because this is where all of our data is. This guy could even be in this cluster because he's pretty close. And then the outliers are going to be, here's someone that is 32 years old and 64, 66 inches maybe, and here's someone who is 40, maybe 41 years old, and is 72 inches, so or a little taller maybe, so 6 feet. Okay, so these are the outliers. This is the cluster. So now, which one of your statements is true in your student companion book? A, are there 2 clusters? B, the point 212 is an outlier. Or C, I guess I should have said 1, 2, and 3. Option 3, there are 3 outliers. So which ones are true? All right, let's go ahead and take a look. There are 2 clusters. There are indeed 2 clusters. There's one here and there's one here. And there are 3 outliers. There's one here, here, and here. They don't really fall in the cluster. They don't really fall in the middle, so they're just outliers. All right, we're on our last part. This is another quick, simple lesson for you. Okay. For each person in your classroom, drag a point to represent the person's age and the number of languages the person speaks, and describe any features of the scatter plot that represent the data for your class. Well, we aren't in a classroom, are we? So if you would like to do this, you can survey your family and do this scatter plot. However, in my family, I only have 2 people, so it wouldn't be a very good representation of data for me to do this for myself. But you would just look at, if we're going to make a fake graph, we could say here's the ages and the number of languages spoken. So I'm going to think about my extended family here, and I'm going to say my cousin is 8 years old, and he's actually living in Oregon, and he goes to a school where they teach both French and English. So he speaks 2 languages. My uncle he's older than 20, so he's probably 40. So I'm going to drag that as far away as I can. And he is Hispanic and speaks Spanish and English. So I'm going to put him at 2, pretending that this goes on. I speak a little bit of Spanish and Italian, and I'm older than 22. So I'm going to put it up here. I'll put it at 3. And then most everyone in my family just speaks 1. So everyone else in my family would be around this 1 line. Okay, so that's kind of what you could do for if you're going to just brainstorm this. But everyone in my family speaks pretty much 1 language with a couple of people out here. Okay, so that's what this graph would look like. It's just a way to represent information that we are gathering from a group of people. Okay, so here's another one again, number of pets and age in years. So this again is asking for us to survey the people in our classrooms, but we aren't in a classroom right now, most likely. So you're just going to have to either do this based off of maybe all the cousins in your family, or based off the people that live on your street and thinking about their ages and the number of pets that they have. And brainstorm what you would do for this got it if you'd like to do it. It is optional for you to do. Because that is the end of our lesson for today. We're in our close and check already. So in your close and check, let me verify they don't have any classroom questions in here. Perfect. Okay. So 1, 2, and 3 are great questions for you to think about, and then I will pull up the answer key right here for you. Hopefully you're liking Scatterplot so far. Take a look at these answers, and I will see you very shortly in the next lesson.